Hi, fans of high quality entertainment. I am with some Sparks fans. Again, there's Joe, Monte, Christian, and it's his birthday today, and Paul. And so we'll go by starting with Monte. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into Sparks, and of course, anything you would like to promote.
Well, hello everybody. This is Monty. My story is probably the same as yours, Larry, because I saw them in 1974 on in concert, right, or Midnight Special rather,
Yeah.
and it was like, wow, that's something that caught my eye immediately, and it was I just took off from there.
Yeah.
So I'm old guy listening to Sparks for over 50 years or something like that now.
Yeah.
So
did you see the recent clip from the Midnight Special?
And I was amazed by the video quality of that.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
Yeah,
that's thanks to you, right? Because you kept pushing them.
Well, I'm sure they would have posted it at some time, but I kind of asked them nicely a couple of times, and they're nice to respond. Yeah.
Well, I think it's great. So
yeah. So there's 3 more clips that they did on that show from Kimono My House. So looking forward to that.
Yeah. So as far as promotion is concerned, I think I do have a podcast called So Important, which people are welcome to check out. It doesn't really have a lot of Sparks content, but I'm also happy to announce a new endeavor, which is a YouTube channel, which I am calling Sparks Entertainment and Art. And I'm going to use it to explore kind of 2 things: the duality of so much of what Sparks is about, as well as their impact on people and fans and in the music industry. I think there's a lot of really great stories to tell there. And I think it's just starting to come out, but I think there's a lot more. So now the catch is that I have just started this. So I have 0 videos and nothing on it, but hopefully that will get populated over the next few years. And I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Woo. And Joe?
Yes, I'm Joe Seeger. I've had like 3 different names since I became a Sparks fan. Back in March of 1975, I think I saw them on Don Kirshner's rock concert late at night. I joined the fan club. No, I ran out and bought the album, joined the fan club that same day. And I remember it was March 1975. That's how I remember it. And I joined the fan club, and I have been a fan ever since. In a couple of different states now. I didn't get to see them until 1981 or 82 when I was living in San Francisco. Finally, they played someplace where I lived. So, so I had been a fan for a while. So I was, just really had wanted to see them. So, they've been part of my life, I mean, big time, and then kind of underneath, and then big again. And, and the last few years is big again. So, and I don't have any podcast. I want to start doing my own Sparks blog, of all my Sparks stories, seeing them for the first time and all that. But I'm a singer, so I sing with friends, rock bands, punk bands. I'm an African drummer, djembe drummer. I play taiko drums. So I'm doing a lot of different things. So I need to settle down to do some writing, because doing all that, my brain is like podcast, taiko, let it be, So I retired at the beginning of the year, so now I get some time to do all that other stuff.
Cool. Christian.
Hey, howdy. Right. So
you've been a Sparks fan since 1972.
There you go. I was a Sparks fan.
He was a Sparks fan since Computer Girl. He first heard that.
Since Computer Girl. It was somehow beamed through my mother's womb and into my little forming brain. Yeah, I was late. I was late to the party. I was later than I would like. I missed out on a lot of cool Spark stuff. I'll blame my age for most of that. Yeah, I didn't actually. It was 2008, so I've only got 15 years of Sparks fandom under my belt and counting. I'll it's one of these days, and it was a very post-millennial, type of story of discovery. It was YouTube, so it wasn't anything special like catching them on Top of the Pops or midnight special or singing. In fact, I as a huge Sparks fan, I still have yet to see them live. They have not come to my hometown. I don't think they've ever come to Austin, and that is about to change on July 13th. So
Cool.
I will no longer be a live Sparks virgin after 15 long years.
Wow, cool.
Coming to Austin. So looking forward to that. I started the podcast All You Ever Think About Is Sparks about 4 years ago. I've had Monty on board for a lot of those episodes, especially the last several. Paul and Joe have joined us for a couple of those too. I started out with just because I was so in awe of how vast their discography was and how long they've been at the game, and consistently so. I wanted to know the whole story. Basically, I wanted there to be a podcast like that out there, and there wasn't one. So I took it upon myself with no credentials to start making one. And I, got their official biographies and that kind of stuff. It's been a lot of fun. You can check it out at sparkspodcast.podbean.com.
Yep. Cool.
And let's see what else. Oh, here in Austin, Texas, I'm an actor. I'm a stage actor. I do some improv acting. Very, very amateur musician. Play some bass and keyboards. Would love to start playing live this fall, but we'll see. There so many podcasts.
Yeah,
taking up all my time.
Yeah, cool.
Yours is the best of all of them, though, Christian.
Oh, thank you.
Without question. Well, Larry, I guess it's not really a podcast; it's a video cast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're the best of this.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
There you go.
I'll drink to that.
Now, Paul, I apologize, but we've run out of time, so you can't promote your YouTube channel.
I wasn't going to anyway.
No, go ahead.
So I'm Paul. I've been a fan since 1994, but it feels like I've been a fan for much longer because in the UK, this town ain't big enough for the both of us. It's like the national consciousness or something. It's such a well-known song. So I feel like I've always known it. And when I was a teenager, when I was first sort of setting out my own taste in music, I saw a repeat of that classic Top of the Pops episode. And it was the first time I'd heard it with adult ears, and it just blew me away. So it's like a lot of people, these TV shows that Sparks went on, they made such a huge impact. And a few days later, they were on a program called Pebble Mill, and they were promoting When Do I Get to Sing My Way? And I couldn't believe this was the same band, because I liked a lot of electronic music, and they were just so different. Yet still, you could see at their core they were still Sparks. So I've been a fan since then. When Little Beethoven came out, I went to another tier of fandom, and I've been absolutely obsessed since then. And that's turned into a hobby since, because when A Steady Drip 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 came out, I wanted to talk about some ideas of some like hidden jokes that I saw on that album. So I went onto Facebook, started some chats, and in writing about my thoughts on these songs, that expanded out into a blog. And more recently, I started a YouTube channel, so I've got to get the promotion in there. So I've got a YouTube channel called Meta Sparks, which has only been going for a few months now. But yeah, I'm having great fun doing that. And the blog is sparks1fortheages.com.
Yeah, I've seen I've seen the blog, everybody's blogs and your videos, and they're excellent. I really enjoyed them. Like you really go, you really make you. Well, Sparks lyrics make you think anyway, right? But for instance, Terminal Jive, just the way you talk about the whole album, it's almost like a concept album in a way. It's just very interesting. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, that album's one. I didn't think much of it up until quite recently, and my opinion on it's transformed. And that core thing that I start with on the video, where when I'm with you, is a song about having nothing to say. So if you look at it as being a song about songwriting, then it's just a different perspective rather than it being a song about relationships. Well, obviously it can be both at once, but then to have a song about having nothing to say and repeating it with an instrumental version on the same side of the album less than 10 minutes later, I think that's a hilarious joke for people see as filler. So it's a really brave joke because they haven't spelt it out, assuming that's right, of course. But yeah, there you go.
Could I just say that the Annette video that you made should be required viewing for all Sparks fans. Annette can be inscrutable without doing some mental work, and the lines that you connected just made complete sense. From the three main characters being analogs to Ron and Russ and Leo Carax and Annette, representing also the film Annette. Anyway, there were so many aha moments. I loved that one in particular.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I enjoyed the movie, although it did confuse me. But it's because I don't like to think, But it was really, really good.
Paul makes you think.
Yeah,
I want to
have
check
not
out
watched that one yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Well, maybe they'll write and score the next Transformers, and we'll have something for the masses.
Yeah.
So I would love everybody's opinion on Sparks' latest. The Girl Is Crying in My Latte. Just, if your initial thoughts on it, I guess, and start with Monte.
You're going to start with me?
Yes.
All right. Well, I do have some thoughts, so maybe we should start with somebody else. I don't know, but since you called on me, I'll go ahead and tell you what I think. Basically, in a nutshell, I think this is one of their all-time great albums.
Yep.
That's the one sentence answer. And that's not something I say lightly, because the last one that I put in that class was in 2008, and they've had 3 or 4 different releases since then. And, they've all been good. But this one, I think there's a lot to it. I think it's special. And I keep waiting for something to tell me, no, I'm judging it too quickly, but that hasn't been the case. And basically, I want to lay out my thoughts about the album, but I'll do that after we go around a little bit. But the short answer is that I think it's just a spectacular piece.
Okay. I'll go next. Like I loved A Steady Drip, Drip, Drip and Hippopotamus, but I've already played this more than both of those 2 albums put together. I played this probably 25 times. I think what really helps with this album too is it's a bit shorter than the other 2. And I think the length actually helps to make it a stronger album. And just the way it flows, like it's one of their most consistent albums, I would say, like all the way through from start to finish. So it would be I think it's in my top 5. Joe hates it.
Yes.
We need that voice of hatred, Joe.
Of what?
Hatred.
I can't stand it. No. I feel the same way. I mean, maybe I've had to listen to it to get on some podcasts, and I had to listen to get the songs.
Yep.
But I like every single song, and that's not the case of like Steady Drip Drip Drip. I like a lot of the songs. That's probably I like that, but and I like there's 14 songs, right? But they're kind of short, which is I realize my attention span is not much longer than a Ramon song. After a little 2 minutes and 59 seconds, I start. So it engaged me the whole time, and I think it revisits a lot of stuff from different albums if you know them. So I really love this album, and from reading other people, it's the same way. The more they listen to it, the more it gets under your skin. I'm always singing the songs, no matter where I'm at. I'm in the kitchen singing these songs, and my husband just looks at me like, okay, So I love it.
Yeah.
What does Rob think?
He hasn't really. I mean, he's been forced to listen to the songs in the car every time we go and here's Spark. Now I have the actual CD, so I put that in the car. But before it was on iTunes, right? So I'm trying to tell him this is a great song. So I think it's taken him a little longer because he loves the angst in my pants era. That's his favorite,
Yeah.
And so he likes that's just him. But what I've done with my family members when I first became Sparks fans, they became Sparks fans because I played things so much that they went, I like it now.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've been known to do that in my past, that I'll make you like it, whether just subliminally. And so the more I listen to it, the more he'll listen to it, and he might like it more.
Absolutely.
A successful conversion story.
I worked on that.
You don't hear that often enough, especially when it comes to significant others. Sparks super fans. I don't think I've met one other than yourself who has a significant other who appreciates Sparks. I think my fiance. Well, there are a few songs I'll play and she's, oh, this is Sparks. That's what I hear most of. This is Sparks. This is Sparks.
Yeah.
Well, my husband and I did meet at a Sparks show.
Ah.
So, but it was kind of Monty connection. I'll have to write about that sometime. But I have friends who never heard of Sparks, and then when the Sparks documentary came out, I talked about it so much, and now I see that they like all the Sparks stuff on Instagram. I laugh. They didn't even know who Sparks was. And now they're my friend wrote different lyrics to Hippopotamus. Every time she does something, she's singing Hippopotamus. She never heard them before. So my work is not done in the world.
Yep.
So Christian, my wife does love Sparks.
Yeah.
She really does. She appreciates them for their own noise, own sound and what they bring. And I mean, she actually had one of their 45s when I met her. It was All You Ever Think About Is Sex. She owned that independently. So she is a listener. And the way she described the new album is she said it's like an avant-garde onion. Just keep peeling it away, and there's more and more to it. Yeah. And I thought that was a great quote.
Yeah, it really is. And I think for a lot of Sparks albums in general, but yeah, definitely applied here.
So Christian, your thoughts?
Well, so since I came on board late, about 15 years ago, my experience in discovering the albums wasn't the way it was obviously for people, the OG Sparks fans who discovered them in the mid 70s or whatever. So when a new album came out, like a Big Beat or Number One in Heaven or something, there wasn't that shock of the new from what had come before. So I've had a bit of a different perspective when new albums come out, because I just have a handful of new ones that came out since I was a fan. I would well, first off, I like it a lot. Since Hippopotamus, I would say they've been in a particularly reflective mood lyrically and musically. I think it is much more common for Sparks albums to be kind of homogenic in their sound and their style. And Hippopotamus and Steady Drip to Drip and this one feel like a sort of trilogy, until it becomes a quadrology or whatever, of kind of similar approaches. What I like particularly about this one, and it's still cooking in my brain, but I still like it more than the two that preceded it. And I'm not counting the Annette soundtrack. It does seem to pull from every sound that they have that they've tried from every era, and with a little bit more actually a lot more emphasis on the sounds that Ron and Russ were creating when it was just the two of them in a studio and a computer and a digital audio workstation and a keyboard. So in that sense, some of these songs take me back to some places I don't think they've revisited a whole lot since, like gratuitous sax and senseless violins, or the FFS album, which people don't talk about nearly enough, and I think it's fantastic. So that buzzy electronic sounds that you heard on that album, and a little bit on Oh god, exotic creatures from there. I like them bringing that back in, and I think for that reason, this is a bit more divisive. I've found just from reading comments on social media and whatnot. But I love the sound that they make when it's just the two of them in a studio and a computer. I really feel like that's when their imagination gets to just run wild. The full band stuff is really great too. Nothing is as good as they say it is already one of my favorite Sparks songs. More than anything, the consistency of the songwriting itself. There's not a dud in this batch of 14. And that's a hard thing to pull off, particularly when you've been making music for 56 years. So, I'm not ready to declare it one of my all-time favorites, but I really like the direction that they're going in. And I'm hoping that I'm always hoping that there's going to be another shock of the news. Like there's going to be another little Beethoven where they're just going to go make some musical statement of purpose that's going to be totally different. Mm-hmm. It's not here, but they gave us a sampling of everything. And I think with, an eye towards the future.
Cool.
There's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
There was a sorry, Paul. There was a song or two that actually reminded me of their first album, like Russell's vocals or something. I don't know if anybody else sensed that at all.
Yeah, I know the one you mean. I've forgotten the title. I still haven't got the title.
But go on with what you thought, Paul. With your thoughts.
Yeah. I echo everybody else's sentiments. I think it's an absolutely fantastic album. It is really brave again, and obviously Sparks. Every time they put something out, it's completely distinct. But they're not. They've got the biggest audience they've ever had, and they're not resting on their laurels. They're still working with new sounds. It does reflect other music that they've recorded before, but it's not repeating anything. It's still finding these new ideas. And Christian just said about this being like set in a future direction. And how many bands in their 70s could you say that about? It's absolutely incredible. They're unlike any other band, and the bravery of it, things like with the lyrics, they've got some really obviously it's clever songwriting throughout, but they're still brave enough to have lines like, the girl is crying in a latte, the girl is crying in a latte, wow, and they're doing that with intent. It's like no other band could get away with what Sparks do. And it's just a beautiful thing. So, I absolutely love the album.
Yeah, cool. All right.
So I'm going to dare to bring a different perspective than Christians. And one of the great things about music, obviously, is that people hear it differently, right? Because when I hear the album, I hear it from a little bit differently than Christian does. So let me lay out a little bit of a different perspective. I feel like picking up on what Paul said about not resting on your laurels, what I've noticed over the years is they never really do the same sound more than twice, occasionally 3 times. And I feel like this trilogy began with FFS, which put them into kind of more of a pop mode, kind of more accessible songs that people can hear, a full band sound coming at you. And that said, okay, that worked. So then they came up with 2 other albums that were very similar in, that in my mind, built on that foundation. They were poppy, they were accessible, they were easy to get to. So now all of a sudden, at the height of their popularity, and when I hear it, I don't see this as just a continuation of steady drip, drip, drip. I see it as a break from steady drip, drip, drip. I feel like this is saying we're going to do something new. And the last 3 albums were very band oriented. And I feel like here they said they're going to do exactly what Christian said. It's going to be a lot of the 2 of them making this music together. And I think they're more reflective, which is not something they've been over the years. I think all the songs are in the, or either in the first person or in, trying to make some kind of point. and it's a lot more than where they've been in the past, and particularly the last two albums. So I'm sorry I'm talking so much, but
That's
I feel like
fine.
this album is a break. And what makes me so amazed is that they did it at the height of their popularity, when it would have been so easy to do another album along the lines of the last one, but they didn't.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the reason why I love it. And as Christian knows, I was hoping, when we were talking earlier about this before it came out, I was saying, well, the last two albums, they were great. They had that kind of a pop feel. I hope they just do something new. And in my mind, they did, without straying too far, but nonetheless, they did do something different. So that's, to me, how I hear it. And to me, that's part of the reason that makes this so special, because this is really just them talking about things that are on their mind, as opposed to just, here's another clever song because we're Sparks and we can just do this because we're so damn good. So different perspective a little bit. What do you think, Christian?
So I just, as a mental habit, I guess, when my relationship to music, is I listen to the production and the melodies and the instrumentation first, and then I notice the lyrics. It's just what my mind does. And so I guess production wise, there's definitely more of an emphasis on that intimate sound of just Ron and Russ. And maybe I'll get there. I don't know, but it doesn't sound like a solid break to me. I do agree that it's more reflective, and I think there are a lot of songs in here, like your wife said, like an onion, and a lot of stuff in here that I think really would deserve the Meta Sparks treatment, to use Paul's phrase. A lot of this does seem like, it could be read in another way to be autobiographical, about them and their relationship to their audience and that kind of thing. Having said that, several of the songs, and as fantastic as they are, like, nothing is as good as they say it is. I mentioned this before. I think that is just a top-notch, very well written song. I couldn't shake, though, that it was really similar to Self-Effacing in just its sound, because that's the first thing that comes to me. Likewise, I guess if I could sort of summarize this, I feel like a lot of these songs are reflections on their experiences in making songs of that genre or subgenre, or a reflection on a collaboration they had with someone. A perfect example is going to be The Girl Is Crying in Her Latte. When I first heard The Girl Is Crying in Her Latte, and listening to the lyrics with a lot of repetition, I think there's like maybe 15 words in the whole thing. I thought two things. One is that lyrically, it's not too far from what they were doing with Little Beethoven, with the repeat, and then the repetition somehow brings a different meaning to these lines as they're repeated, and it doesn't build a narrative, which I love. Sonically, it sounded so much like a pretty obscure song, a song by a French DJ, Sebastian, that came out, I think, in 2019. It was called Handcuffed to a Parking Meter. The synth patches and the beat sound similar to me. So my impression, aside from the Little Beethoven sort of style lyrics, is that they liked the way that song from that collaboration sounded, but they wanted to make it, well, better and more meaningful, which I think is kind of what they got here. And there are lots of other songs that to me sound like they're inspired by similar songs in their discography from all over.
Cool.
That's and again, and that's
great.
and this is just from what? How long has it been? 3 weeks or something?
Yeah.
I mean, these things, Sparks albums incubate in different ways in your head.
That's for sure.
So I don't know if that was an actual answer to your question, but as far as it being a full break, I might come to think that way if this helps to steer them in a bit more of a, well, in an even more different direction the next time. And I see a path for them to do that. And I would like to, I'm sorry, I'm talking so much, but I'm a massive fan of David Bowie.
Yep.
And one of the big things that inspired me to make the podcast was there's this guy who's been doing a blog for several years now about David Bowie, and he's going chronologically from the very first song he ever recorded in 1964 all the way to his death. And sorry, I had a point here. I think about the second to last album that Bowie released was called The Next Day, and it was very self-consciously a revisiting of all of the eras of Bowie that he had explored before in one album. And there were a few new ideas in there too, but I couldn't help, as much as I enjoyed listening to it, I couldn't help thinking, where's the new? This is Bowie. There's got to be some new. And sure enough, 2 years later, he comes out with Black Star, which is just a riveting piece of art, unlike anything I've heard. And I know Sparks has something like that or even better in them. And that's something like that is what I keep hoping is going to be next.
Could be.
Maybe
They're going to do another big beat type album.
Yeah,
Hard
there you
rock.
go. Yeah, this is like the Indiscreet album after Kimono and Propaganda, right?
Yeah,
Kind
yeah.
of thing, where it's like, it's a little different, same personality, then all of a sudden, different again.
So I like that, Joe. This being sort of the analog to the Indiscreet of this era. If you do see, these three albums as a kind of trilogy, which I tend to.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Paul, I think their next album is going to be called Terminal Jivier.
Jivier than thou.
Oh my God.
I hear a lot of Annette in this album, but not in terms of the production, in terms of the songwriting, because they said about this album that I was listening to an interview where they said that they wanted to take some of the ideas they'd developed with Annette and to put it into 3 or 4 minute pop songs. And with Annette, it's all about dark songwriting. And here, there are a lot of like sad lyrics with happy music and vice versa. It seems to explore happiness and sadness quite a lot in this album. And in terms of there are some tricks they do, like they have verses where there are 2 different lines going on at the same time. It's like Russell's interrupting himself. And the basic lyrics as well. That's something that I see as coming from Annette. So I see it as sort of taking that the darkness they developed in their songwriting for that project and applying it to 3 or 4 minute pop songs. And in terms of production, I think it's it's definitely kind of glitchier from what they've done before. It's less instant, I think, than the last few albums, but just far more rewarding. And I love the last few albums. I think a steady drip, drip, drip would be in my top 5 easily, and this surpasses it.
Cool.
Yeah.
I was going to ask what you think. They played the Royal Albert Hall for 2 sold-out shows, which
I was there.
Fantastic. And of course, they're going to be playing at the Hollywood Bowl. Which one of those 2 do you think, if they're going to do it like another concert, DVD, Blu-ray, which one do you think would they film? Like, which would be more important to them?
I guess it depends on which goes better.
Yeah.
I was going to say, with the Hollywood Bowl, I think is really important to them. I think it's,
I think so.
I think because it's in the documentary and they went there when they were young, I think is really important. My hunch is they're not going to film it because they didn't record the 21 by 21 dates. They played every single album over the course of a month. And I've said before, but any other band would have recorded that, and they'd have a box set in the shops for Christmas. But for whatever reason, Sparks didn't. So I don't think they're going to record the Hollywood Bowl show. I think it's going to be just for the people who were there, and I would so love to be there. I was lucky enough to be at Royal Albert Hall, though. And it was
cool.
Amazing. It was a fantastic gig.
Yeah, I mean, while we're talking about releases of live shows, have Sparks officially released anything live other than Two Hands, One Mouth in Europe? I don't know. I don't know that they have.
There's the DVD extra of the concert that Edgar Wright filmed.
Live in London.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the DVDs, but not
No
albums.
Yeah, there's
Right.
a concert on this. Yeah.
Yeah, the two hand. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I would think if they did film the Hollywood Bowl, it was because that's their home, right? And they always talk about how they had to go to Europe to be appreciated, and they're not really that appreciated in this country. You know, maybe LA, New York, you know, a few places. So, but I don't know. You know, it'd be great if they ever put out a DVD or both CD and DVD of a show, but I don't know.
They need to go back to Magic Mountain. I'm ready for that.
Oh,
I
wow,
saw them
great.
in Magic Mountain.
No. Oh wow.
I did. My friends opened for them. That's another thing I have to write about. They opened for them, so I got to go with them, and I got to go backstage, and I watched them do their sound check. And that's when I figured out who Mary Martin really was, because I just kind of watched everything. I stayed so quiet because I didn't want to get thrown out, or you know, so I watched them do their sound check and how their little blips and stuff they were trying to do. Let's Go Surfing. And the surf video wouldn't sync up to the thing, and Ron was getting upset, you know, stuff like that. So I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe, you know, Ron said hello. That's all he said to me. But I was like, I'm more, you know.
This must have been in the 90s.
80s.
Oh, I guess I didn't know they had that. They had the song "Let's Go Surfing."
Yeah.
So early.
I mean, no, they had one. Was a surf song though. I can't remember, but it was around that era. It was 80s though. I know it was 80s because I was, you know. I got to go because my friends were opening for them, and my first husband was their sound man. So there was like no discussion. Joe's coming to us to this gig, or else we'll be dead men. So, but that was cool because that was you know Magic Mountain Sparks. You know,
We need to have Spark Story Hour with you, Joe.
I know I have lots of little ones. You know, like that. I was writing them down last year. Put them on the reinforcement sites or whatever, but I did a few, and then I said, well, let me wait till the European part tour is over, and then I got to working, and so it's something I have to revisit now.
Another venue that I don't know if they're going to, but I assume it would be pretty meaningful to them if they're the Whiskey A Go Go. They played a lot of their earliest shows over there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
That would be amazing if they slipped into the Whiskey and did a set when they're in LA.
Yeah,
That'd be amazing.
like a secret set.
Not
right?
their style, but nonetheless, that would be really something.
I also wanted to ask you, like they do talk about it in the Sparks Brothers, but do you think that plagiarism was a mistake and they really should not have ever made it?
Was that a contractual obligation album? Does anyone know if that's the case? I mean, I don't know really the whole story behind it. So if someone does, please.
That's what they suggested.
Yeah, I think the record company was pushing them, right?
They're pushing them to release the greatest hits, I think.
Yeah, in different ways, and they did their way where they did different versions of it, right?
I do like half of it, like the version of "Angst in My Pants" on the album. I love as much as the original. Like some of it, I do love, but
yeah.
Well, Change and Funny Face, I think. Big version, and Pulling Rabbits Out of a Hat. Those versions, I think.
Yeah.
Really fantastic. Really something.
Yeah, I'm glad they released that. I mean, first off, you know, it was a creatively satisfying way, you know, for them to appease, you know, the record label, I guess. And also, I think it was a neat way for then recent fans, especially European fans, who hopped on board with When Do I Get to Sing My Way and all that stuff, and sort of introduced this huge body of work to them, but with a production style that sounded modern. So I wouldn't be surprised, if that helped grab some more recent fans' interest. And so I think there's value in that, and the songs sound good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have
it's
like
funny
3
you'd
copies
raise
of it.
that. Oh, go ahead, Joe.
I have like 3 copies of that. I was looking through and I was putting things in order. I went, how come I have all these, like 3 or 4 copies of Plagiarism, but one is signed. So, yeah.
I think what I like best about it are the collaborations, because you can tell that the people that they're collaborating with are giant Sparks fans.
Yeah.
Like Mike Patton is on there from Faith No More. He is an avowed mega fan. What is it? Jimmy Somerville, Erasure. Erasure really does a fantastic job with
Amateur Hour.
Amateur Hour. Thank you. Yeah, great stuff.
So my feeling about Plagiarism is just to enjoy it for what it is. It's never going to be one of like anybody's favorite Sparks album or anything, but it's enjoyable. It's different. They're taking some chances, and it's fun. And I think that's about as far as I would go. I do love the collaborations, especially the ones with Faith No More and a couple others, which I think really work well. And it was interesting to see what they did with them, like Propaganda, where they added the extra lyrics and stuff like that. It was fun.
Yeah. They got to be creative where creativity was not expected. And, and Sparks, true to their own natures, they made it, something much more interesting than it would have been.
Right. Than another greatest hits.
Yeah.
So what else? Oh yeah, let's talk about some, I guess I will call them deep cuts, that aren't talked about as much. Paul, what are some Spark songs that aren't quite as well known that you love?
So there's one that's quite recent to me. There's a demo version of Barbecuity, which I heard on YouTube a few weeks ago, and it is so good. It's completely different. It's acoustic, and it sounds a lot more like 1960s style. So Barbecuity is a song I love anyway. You could maybe Barbecuity in itself is a deep cut, because I think it was a B-side, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Both versions of that song, I think, are absolutely fantastic.
The Kimono Band on that? Do you know? Is Martin Gordon on bass on his famous Rickenbacker?
It's stripped down. I can't quite remember the instrumentation, but it's more like acoustic guitars. It's well worth your time. It's just absolutely
I have to
brilliant.
find that. They have the original single.
Sorry.
I actually love Lost and Found even more than Barbecuity.
Those B-sides were just great. I mean,
They were. I have them all. I was looking at them.
Yeah.
Lost and Found, Barbecuity.
Barbecuity, that bass that opens it is so good.
Yeah.
That's it. Fantastic.
Yeah. And again, Martin Gordon's especially proud of that one.
Yeah.
He should be. Great. One of the all-time greats.
Yeah.
So,
well, I guess I'll go. Unless did you have others, Paul? I mean,
no.
They're only what, a billion songs.
Yeah.
So you go for it.
Okay. Well, I've got a lot of notes here, so I'm gonna give you the Sparks notes version of my notes, if you will. So I recently went back and I listened to the third disc of the expanded Gratuitous Acts, the 25th anniversary thing, the release.
Yep.
And the third disc, if you're not familiar, it has a bunch of demos. They never did completely finish fleshing them out. I think a lot of them, if I'm not mistaken, were for the Psychic Girl movie that at one point I think they had Tim Burton attached to, and it just was in development hell, and it never happened. But it's so interesting to listen to, because you imagine this pocket universe where such a film did happen and these songs were fleshed out, and they point in really cool. There's some cool songs in there, oh gosh, She's an Anchorman. I think that was on there, and Mid Atlantic. There's just some neat stuff on there, and if you haven't listened, it's really cool, because it as a huge Sparks fan, it kind of helps to fill in the blanks in that sort of those lost years when they weren't actually actively releasing any music. And I'm gonna say one more, if I may. I really like Armies of the Night.
Yeah,
I have that written down.
me too.
I actually kind of ignored it through the years, but it's on music that you can dance to instead of change, right?
Yeah.
And I love the whole album. When it came out, it was okay, I guess, but kind of disappointing to me. But like, I think even all of their albums, Interior Design, I love a lot more than I used to. Like Terminal Jive, Paul, I enjoy. But yeah, Armies of the Night, I think, is great.
What got me to start appreciating that song on a different level was when I found the Norman Mailer connection. I didn't realize that was the title of a book by Norman Mailer about the big march on the Pentagon in protest of the Vietnam War in 1967. And when you go through and you read the lyrics, okay, you can kind of see it. And the narrator, the character, he's participating in this big political protest, but he's treating it like he's like at a dance club.
Paul, you've got to steal that for your video, for your next video.
You know it.
Well, that song is played in a nightclub in the movie. It's in Fright Night.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Fright Night.
And that's a great movie too.
I know, I love that movie.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, that's Sparks." I remember I didn't know, right? And there was like a nightclub scene where the vampire's looking after the girl, and there's Armies of the Night. And I'm like, no, don't go to the scene. Play the song. It's like watching Roller Coaster. Like, no, stay on Sparks.
And I think you can draw a line from Armies of the Night to a song like We Go Dancing on this new album, where it's very, very political, and it's equating this political spectacle, fascist or spectacle, as a dance party, a mandatory dance party sort of a thing. So it's just a really cool juxtaposition. It's a very Iran juxtaposition, to take something that's not meant to be fun. And someone is finding fun in it because they're not engaging in it for the same reasons as everybody else. So I like that one a lot. I mean, it's not on every region's release of music you can dance to. I think I can't remember which ones it is or isn't on.
It is on the Best of Sparks, which is music that you can dance to, right?
Yeah, that's so weird.
I
don't know the story behind that weird.
It was put out by Mike Curb, and they were never happy with it and didn't authorize it. And it was basically that album.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet there were a lot of pissed off fans or casual fans who just wanted to hear, stuff from Kimono.
Yeah.
When I first got into Sparks, I bought Kimono My House immediately. I bought Gratuitous Sax and Senseless Violins. And I thought, what shall I go for next? Oh, Best of Sparks. And I thought, wow, it's not really stepping out much more after this. I've got the only two good albums they've done if this is the Best of Sparks.
Now if it's got what's it called? Fingertips on it. It's not the Best of Sparks.
I know, that's probably my least favorite. I know it must be interesting being a Sparks fan later. Then, like, which ones do you pick? That seems like, because they've put out so much, right? Yeah. And I became a fan of the third album, and then the fourth one came out right after. So I had those two, and then I went back. I had to go back two to catch up, and then I had to just wait with everybody else. So it must be something like, it's interesting how you pick that one and then this one and that, well, I guess that's good. Start somewhere.
I'll just mention two more songs. One is Love Scenes, I think is a great pop song from and Interior Design. That's another one that when it came out, I was disappointed in it. It's not one of my favorites, but I really appreciate it a lot more these days. And I think Love Scenes is just a great pop song. And the other one, it's a great song, but I love the lyrics. It's the Decline and Fall of Me.
Oh yeah.
He's writing about chart failure. Like, what other band would write a song about failing on the charts, right?
They do on the new album. They've got that line. No chart bound, no sing-alongs. I'll pay for it. No chart bound.
Yeah.
So it's a theme for them, definitely. I think they take pride in it.
Yeah.
So I can throw out a couple if you want.
Sure.
Are we going round? I'll just throw out a couple. I'm going to go retro. I'm going to go all the way back to their very first album. And Joe, I know you like this one. It's a song called Big Bands.
Yeah.
And it's kind of everything about Sparks that you could hear all throughout their career is right there on this one song. And it's you can see the arrangement is complex and it doesn't come together quite as smoothly as things do later in the career, but it's the story of a guy who lived before the crash, listening to the big bands, and then it all fell apart. And it's a classic kind of Sparks character, but the music is so compelling. And I've always loved that song. It was one of the very first Sparks songs that I just said, oh, wow, this is really something else. And so Big Bands is one I would have to put right up there. And, the lyrics are so I smiled like Herbert Hoover when they played. I dreamed of bankers' daughters, better days. I mean, this is brilliant. And this is their first album. Yeah. Who writes like that on their first album? Yeah. So that was one I would throw out. And then, Paul, since you mentioned acoustic, I will mention on the back of the 12-inch of Change is an acoustic version of This Town Ain't Big Enough for the Both of Us, which sounds like it's Russell. I believe it's Ron playing guitar. I've seen that, but I don't know for sure. But it's beautiful. It just
it's a cool version.
Brings out a whole nother dimension to it.
Yeah, there's some point where Russell just kind of breaks into a reverie with the acoustic guitar strumming in the background. Ooh, it soars to a completely different level. I love that recording. That's cool.
Yeah.
Joe.
Okay, well, I was going through the albums, and I didn't do too many from the beginning, but Whippings and Apologies.
Yes.
Yes, it might be my favorite song of
I know, I love that song.
Yeah.
Whippings and Apologies, over and over. The first several albums, and then I jumped a bunch of albums, and then I like Popularity. It's just a good song.
Yep.
A song that sings itself. I really like that one. Forever Young. I just like the way, it's like an anthem, goofing off because it's goofy. And I love Everybody's Stupid. I love it in the documentary when he's talking about everybody's stupid. You're stupid, and you're stupid, and you're stupid. Like, hey, welcome to our show, and you're all stupid. And that just cracks me up. It just, funny face. I like Sherlock Holmes. I really do like that song a lot. Metaphor.
Yeah.
I just think
that's great. Brilliant.
That one cracks me up. Onomatopoeia. I don't know. I think I was dreaming about having a little girl with curly hair. That I was married to Russell, and we had a little girl. And my friend Madeline says, "That's onomatopoeia." Oh no, okay. And why not? Pacific Standard Time is just so pretty.
Yeah.
So
another one I think is a masterpiece. And I think Flea mentions it in the Sparks Brothers, is Those Mysteries. And I saw them on their solo tour in Toronto. They performed that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really?
Great.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't think they really ever played anything from that album, but that's a great pick.
Yeah.
Was that on the Two Hands, One Mouth tour?
Yeah.
Yeah. We saw. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think
I
that was on
I
the
saw-
follow-on.
The
tour.
first time I saw them was at the Elmo Combo in Toronto in 1982. And then I didn't see them for 31 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, we all had a long break because they didn't play, or
Yeah.
wherever you were at, right? They didn't play.
Well,
They
there
got
was
popular.
was like- Yeah, there was like 5 or 6 years where I thought they were done because
Oh,
you'd
yeah.
never
Me
hear
too.
anything about them.
Yeah.
Joe, I loved your list, and like thinking of the song that sings itself, which
Mhm.
is so beautiful. And
Yeah.
it got me thinking. There was a 45 that they released right when things were in this kind of nadir period. It's called National Crime Awareness Week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, what a song that is.
Oh, it's fantastic.
That's a great song.
Yeah.
It was hard just picking them because I'm thinking, okay, I know these songs. Are they? But some of them, I mean, I just remember always liking them, and I don't think I've heard a lot of these live. So when they do these wacko ones that you thought I'll never sing live because it's been years, so great. They should do it with an apology, so you should tell them.
Yeah, that's
Now, we might as well get a little negative too here. Just one. What is one Sparks song? What is your least favorite Sparks song?
Whoa. I wasn't ready for that question.
I think-
I hit you with a good one.
I know it must be from Terminal Jive. I'm still working on that, Paul. That album. I really am.
This town ain't
Well-
big enough for the both of us. I don't get it. I just don't get the appeal.
Really? Are you serious?
No.
Oh, okay.
that amateur hour. What a loser. Oh, that's- yeah. Well, I'll start.
Yeah.
because for me, there's always about a half a dozen that I just haven't liked over the years.
Yeah.
And from the very first album, what's it called? Biology
Biology
or
2.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't listen to it. I just can't listen
That's
to
really
it.
more of
And
an
I
Earl
don't- it's not
Mankey
really-
song anyway.
So, yeah. So there, I'll throw that one out.
Trying
That's
to think.
totally valid.
Every
And
time.
you want to know another one while you guys
Sure.
are thinking about it?
Yeah.
That song on Balls called "It's Educational."
Yeah.
Just grates on me.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I can't
It's like listening
even
to
pull
a
that up in
record
my head.
with taking the needle.
I can't even remember that one. I
Yeah,
must
me
skip
neither.
over it.
Yeah. So there's a couple for you.
Every time there's a Sparks song I think I don't like, I listen to it a few times and fall in love with it. So you're definitely asking the wrong person with this question.
Yeah,
But-
because I have to revisit somebody.
You know,
Yeah. Can I
for
say-
me, it's got to be something on one of their '80s movies soundtracks, and I think there are a couple of songs where it just sounds like they're doing it for a check. I mean, Let's Get Crazy. It's kind of fun, but it's
Yeah.
also very, very slight.
And sports, I remember.
Sports, yeah, that
I
from
like
that
sports.
era, there are some.
I
fun
had
ones.
sport. I know. I bought the big 12-inch of that. I liked it.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
I
that
didn't know
one.
there was such a thing.
I would just buy anything that had sparks. Just buy it, whether I knew it and liked it. I don't care. Sparks.
Yeah, my least favorite has always been Fingertips.
Yeah, I was
although
gonna say,
Yeah.
although I don't mind it. I used to hate it, but even it's okay now, I guess.
Fingertips is my least favorite as well.
Yeah.
But there's one that grates, and on the extended version of Little Beethoven, there's a song which is actually it's a really good song, but they sample a German football commentator, Wunderbar. That's it. And my problem is
Yeah.
the opening, there's this really screeching sound at the start of it, and because I love Little Beethoven as like a self-contained album, you get to the end of Suburban Homeboy, and I think, that's the end. You breathe out, and then with the bonus tracks, you get this really grating sound come in. So it sort of takes me out of the moment. But as a standalone song, I think it's really good.
Yeah. And then there are a couple of those songs that whatever Ron's intent, and and I don't think that they were bad or unseemly, but when you get songs like Young Girls, White Girls,
White
White Women,
women.
Anything where he puts on his dirty old man hat can be a little hard to listen to, even though, those of us who, think we know Ron and Russ well know he's putting on a character, right? But those are just kind of hard for me to come back to sometimes, especially if I have other people in the room who are not familiar with Sparks and they're over your.
Yeah, really funny songs, though.
Throw her away and get
They
a
are.
new one. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So going on 400 songs, there's bound to be a few that don't hit, right?
Right.
And picking up on what Christian said, there's also a kind of obscure one called "I Wish I Could Dance Like Black People Do."
Yes.
Oh, I never heard that.
Perfect
Yeah, it's
example
out
of what
there.
I'm talking about.
You have to search for it, but it's
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
and that's probably one that maybe they regret.
Yeah, that didn't get past the demo stage, I don't think,
No, it didn't. It did not.
and probably rightly so.
Okay. What do you consider their best album for production and their worst?
Whoa,
I didn't think about that.
these are good ones.
Worst production, I'd say, is Big Beat. I think Big Beat. It sounds like it could have been a much better album.
Mhm.
It went in and remixed it. It feels like something was wasted there.
It does have kind of a muddy sound.
Yeah. I wish I'd seen that at the 21 by 21 shows they did in London.
It was
Did you
supposed to
hear
be
that
great.
one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. So yeah, for worst, I'd definitely say Big Beat. For best, for me, Little Beethoven, because it's so singular.
I was going to say for worst, interior design.
Yeah.
And
I think I agree with that.
and the best would be Indiscreet.
Oh yeah, that was
Tony Visconti.
Visconti.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think I may agree with you there.
Well, I certainly do agree with you on interior design. The best I have to think about a little bit. You can't rule out Number One in Heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the Tony Visconti stuff was primo. So yeah.
Both with Giorgio and Tony. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kimono's up there with the best as well.
Yeah.
I'd say the
I,
production.
I think between Kimono My House and Propaganda, I don't know if it's because of Martin Gordon, not taking anything away from Ian Hampton, but Kimono My House seems a bit stronger, like music-wise, like the bass or something. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think the rhythm section is a little more. It's a little, I guess you could say tighter, but it's a little more. It's a little more groovy. It's a little more driving.
you know,
And that could be. I mean, I guess, what are the factors that are different, from those two albums? You got Martin Gordon, and I think Adrian Fisher was not on Propaganda, but he was
not on very much
playing guitar on Kimono. So, and he was really good too.
yeah.
Well, also, Propaganda was put out just months after Kimono. It was like, we gotta get another one out there.
Yeah.
But all that said, Paul, Christian, I'm not sure I agree. I think Propaganda is a very special piece I think, when you end with a song like Bon Voyage or Thank God It's Not Christmas, where you're actually letting them jam a little, not Thank God It's Not Christmas. It's
Who don't like kids?
Yes, who don't like kids. Thank you. I think those are beautiful little musical pastiches, and they didn't really let their bands do that very often at that time. But I'm sure it's not jamming, but nonetheless, I think it really takes it to a wonderful level. So I have to think about that one.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
One final question, and then anything else you guys want to talk about before we finish here. I've asked this before, but there's always new people watching this. What are some of the other artists that you like through the years besides Sparks? Monte, you go first.
Well, I'm probably different than everybody else because I don't really listen to other electronic music at all. I listen to hard rock. You know, I've seen the Rolling Stones 20 times. I met my wife in the mosh pit, as Joe knows, of a Ramones concert. But when Sparks is just a different breed altogether. And I love what they do electronically, but other electronic bands do not do it for me. It's all AC/DC, Rolling Stones, Joan Jett, Ramones. That's what I love. So that's what makes Sparks even more fun for me, because not to belabor this, but when I first heard them, it was Kimono My House and Propaganda. Those albums were rocking.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, here's another rock band, and then I heard the first two and I was like, okay, I can see the growth, from those two to these two, and then came Indiscreet. And that was the point for me where it's like, okay, this is different. This is a different beast. Am I on board with this or not? And the answer was clearly yes, So I'm coming from at it. I would guess I'm coming at it from a different place than most of the folks here.
Yeah. Does anybody like Captain Beefheart?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I
Do you see any similarities, Larry? Any?
Not
or
really,
Any
no.
influence of it? Yeah, I was just curious.
No.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, he's very hard to mimic unless you're the Shags or something.
Yeah,
Shags. They don't know any better.
And I like Lou Reed, Blue Oyster Cult.
Yeah.
David Bowie, of course. A band called the Beatles, which I know Monte isn't a fan of.
I'm not. It's true, but my band plays a couple of them.
Yeah.
So you gotta let the guitarist have a couple.
Yeah.
If you're in a band, it's like, go ahead, let's do a couple. It's all good. So we do some. So I've learned to like them a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Monty, I was a big Rolling Stone fan, the British Invasion, of course, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I got into like New York Dolls and of course Sparks, Roxy Music, Bowie, all those type of bands. I got into that. And then I got into punk rock, which I used to be in a punk rock band back in the early 80s.
Yep.
We never sing Sparks. I tried to get them to sing Sparks, but they would not.
So hard.
So I love the Ramones, Magazine, Television. Those kind of more arty punk bands, the Heartbreakers too, Drug Addicts. So I loved all that stuff. And a big thing I love is surf music, instrumental surf music, from the Ventures to like Messer Chups who are playing now. I just love all that instrumental, no words, but I liked all their titles and stuff. So I still like that.
So Joe, you will be, I don't know if I've ever told you this. I saw Television opening for Peter Gabriel on his very first tour back in a 2,500 seat venue in Pittsburgh. And it was like, okay, that was good. And then came Peter Gabriel doing his stuff. And that was his very first solo tour. And that's how, when I think of Television, that's what I think of immediately. Yeah.
I love them. I love Marquee Moon. That was one of the albums I listened to a lot. And, same thing with Magazine, Real Life, Howard Photo, Buzzcocks. I love the Buzzcocks a lot too.
Anybody a fan of Wire?
Yes. So you're kind of getting closer to one of my sweet spots, which is post punk.
Yeah.
Wire, fantastic.
Yeah.
I've followed them for a long time, seen them in concert once, and similar in the regard that they've also taken a lot of chances musically. They didn't stay in one place at all. I love those guys.
Yep.
And I used to like the Smiths a lot.
Yeah.
I was a big Morrison fan. I actually, when I met Monty for the first time at a Sparks show, and I met my husband there, I met Morrissey and I met Sparks all on the same night.
Wow.
It was like, and I thought, it was just another thing I'll have to write about. We had the Sparks-orama #2. And
there's only one of those that you still talk to regularly.
Wow. You.
How about you, Paul? I'm really interested in your other music.
So, my first love, I think, is electronic music. So I always loved Kraftwerk and Orbital and Underworld. Bjork, I'm a huge fan of. The Beatles, I absolutely adore. Queen, I'm a big Queen fan, and obvious parallels with Sparks there as well. So yeah, all over the place really. I like bits of everything.
Cool.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, I know you and I, Paul. Yeah, we definitely share some similar musical instruments or influences, interests. Craft work. I couldn't agree more. A lot of that early, mid to late '70s techno pop or experimentation. Suicide, that can be a hard listen sometimes, but I really like those guys too.
I have 2 albums.
What's that?
I have 2
He's
albums.
got
I
2
got
albums
Mael.
for you.
Nice.
Then you-
Right.
And then, as I said before, anything from the new wave, post-punk initial era, I am absolutely in love with Talking Heads.
Yep.
Devo.
Yep.
They Might Be Giants. Gosh, I know I could. They're Oingo Boingo, XTC. I could go on. And yeah, some electronic music. Chemical Brothers and Daft Punk and all that stuff. Generally,
Cool.
Another big one I forgot is Scott Walker and the Walker Brothers.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
agreed. He died somewhat recently. I didn't know. It was
a few years ago, but
yeah.
he the later albums he was putting out, but they were difficult.
was-
Rewarding.
Yeah, and he late in his career, he was still he was influencing David Bowie. Even late in both of their careers, he was still influencing David Bowie.
Oh, you can hear it. They've got parallels every few years. But yeah, that David Bowie album, I could hear a lot of Scott Walker in there.
And I don't know if any of you are asked, like, to get into Sparks, what album should I listen to first? What I say now is to just pick this up, right? Best of Sparks, because it's basically everything they've done.
Yeah, I think it does give you a good representative taste of what their music sounds like, and they are certainly some of Ron's top tier lyrics. I think it would just be a shame not to. But I don't have many, and this may change, but one of the things that hasn't clicked with me yet is nothing sounds like a standout hit single, which I know that's not the game they're playing.
Mm-hmm.
But you can turn on number one song in heaven anytime or beat the clock, almost anything on Angst. But some of the singles from those couple of albums are just so special, and I would want someone who's not heard Sparks to have exposure to some of those those S tier singles. So I guess it would be cheating, but I would probably tell them to go get the best of Sparks first.
See, I used to say kimono when I was asked that, but
Right.
now what I do is I talk to people and I say, "What kind of music do you like?"
Yeah.
And I say, "Okay, here's some music that they did in that particular style. See what you think, and if you like it, here's some more stuff that we can play." So I mean, so if somebody was into electronics, I'd have a much different answer than somebody who really just loved guitar music and had So I always find it a complicated. I used to find an easy question. Now I find that a really complicated question.
Very.
Yeah.
I think if I had to pick a one size fits all, I'm going with Angst.
Angst is great.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, I echo what Monty said, because Sparks, especially looking back now from 2023, it's like an alternative history of pop music. So everybody will like something from the last 50 years. So yeah, you find out what they like and say, hey, there's a wacky version of that that's been put out by Sparks. Not wacky, probably a choose a word there, but like an alternative version.
Yeah. If they're into new wave, then Angst would be the great place to start.
Can I just
pick up on? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. One, and I don't know if I've said this before, but one of the things that that hooked me onto Sparks so early on, when I first heard them, was and again, this is the benefit of having access to this giant discography immediately. Was excuse me, hang on a second. It was like, you ever seen Zelig or Zelig?
Yep.
Woody Allen's Zelig. The main character, he's inserted himself into all of these historical moments. He just happens to be there. JFK gets shot. He's there. He's in the Capcom in Houston while Neil Armstrong is walking out. He's everywhere, and that's sort of the impression I got listening to all this new stuff from Sparks, all in one go. It was like this, to me, alternate pop history where this band was topping the charts, and they were much bigger than they were in most places. So just once you realize that they've always been there, and they've always seemed to be everywhere. I'm not quite putting it the way it's feeling to me, but I think if you watch Zelig, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How can these people I've never heard of have been everywhere and done all this stuff, and I wasn't aware of it?
Yeah.
It's true. When the trailer for the Edgar Wright movie was released, so many people were commenting saying, "Is this band a hoax?" Like people were saying, "I really love music, so how come I've never heard of them?"
Or they thought it was like a Spinal Tap kind of a joke documentary.
Sure. But the seeds of Sparks, or they emanate through all these different groups, right? The electronic groups and even some that are out now. You have like Flea talking about, it's just always been there, and they kind of planted the seeds of all these different music that came out. So if you look down in the roots of all this different stuff, there's Sparks.
Yeah.
Ron and Russell seeds down there.
Yeah.
Little boxing gloves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you say that they're at their most popular right now?
Without question.
Yeah, I think so. Especially
Yeah.
being in the U.S. I mean, the Angst era, they were big in the U.S., right? They toured a lot. They had the Cool Places song, which is not one of my favorites.
Not like now.
No.
Yeah.
But even though it was a big song, just because it was their hit, and whenever somebody has a big hit and they're so special, and when they have a big hit, it's usually not that they're normal type of music. It's almost like they try to be too commercial.
Yeah.
But that was kind of big then. But now it's the bigger halls. I don't know. Also, you have everything on media, right? Back then, you just everything was just like you just heard what you heard. You didn't have to go. You didn't get to go on YouTube. You didn't have the internet. You didn't have all these Sparks, 20,000 Sparks sites that you don't even know. It's great. And but back then it was kind of barren.
Yeah, that's such a great point. The internet has been so kind to Sparks. There's no way, because right now I think they're probably I don't in some places they've been bigger before. Like I don't think you can compare anything to when Kimono My House was released in the UK or something like that. But I think they're probably bigger in more places,
right,
than they ever were before, and that's because anybody can access them and find them. Imagine how many people for a while there in the 80s especially, they were releasing albums. They were just not releasing some of their albums in some regions, including the USA. So people didn't even know that there was this album like
Terminal Jive.
Thank you. Terminal Jive. Like that wasn't even released in the USA, and now, we have the benefit of being able to look all this stuff up and have access to it instantly. And they're such a great band for that kind of discovery. And social media, I think, has been a tremendous boon to them as well. I mean, that's how I met all you nice people right here. So it's really helped increase the fandom and bring people closer.
And then with the documentary, like somebody says, they're playing big tours in Europe and the US. Usually they had tours in Europe, US, but not so much in the UK. Then UK, but not US. And they always mentioned that, well, we always had one song that was popular someplace, like France, Japan, Alabama, one song, but never all together. So they just kind of Germany, California, cool places or something, But now it's more, like have another second big US tour. Playing places, that they wouldn't have played. I mean, I was looking back at old, like set list or gigs, and some places they only played Los Angeles that couple years. I'm like, no wonder I didn't see them. They only played Los Angeles. I lived in Denver, Colorado, so no, it's not gonna happen.
Well, in 2017, I saw them at a small club in New York, and now I'm seeing them for the second time in a row at a 3,000, the Lincoln Theater or Lincoln, whatever it is in Washington. I mean, and they never, even at the height of their popularity, the idea of them selling out the Hollywood Bowl would nobody would even have thought of that.
Yeah.
We saw the Key Club. Remember, Monty? We saw them.
I do. I still have my ticket.
So we really have to thank Edgar Wright and me.
Yeah, absolutely. Larry, you have been steady.
No, when I used to
actually, thank you.
No, when I used to talk about them on my channel a few years ago, like I talk about an album or whatever, I never expected any of the viewers to actually go and listen to them, right? But they would, and they'd come back and say, "I'm a fan now." It's like, oh, okay.
Now we have a bigger medium to spread our propaganda.
Yeah,
before I just had person to person, but now we can actually do it, out there, right? Get more people.
Larry, you're an underappreciated element of the story.
I know. Thank you.
It's just not right.
It's not right.
Not right.
Edgar
By
Wright.
the way, speaking of Terminal Drive there, I remember going to Tower Records and saying, "Can you please tell me where your import section is?"
Mm-hmm.
I know. Some things were only import,
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it sounds like we're starting to wrap up here, but I just wanted to throw this out there. I know a lot of us were reading clues into some of the lyrics and the titles in this album, thinking, is this a goodbye? With especially with the final song, gee, that was fun. But we know that this is not an adieu from Sparks, because they have a musical in the works that they're working on with Focus Features, I believe. I don't remember the title, but they're definitely working on another
Excelsior, Excelsior, or something like that.
Excelsior.
I know they need to take a holiday.
What's that?
They need to take a holiday.
No, they had their holiday from 1989 to 1993.
They had that 6-year gap.
Yeah,
they didn't do anything.
Where they didn't do anything at all.
Right. So keep it up for another 56 years, guys.
Yeah.
Well, like they said in the video, with medical advances and stuff, we could do another 25 albums.
Yeah. So I'll have a link for everybody for Monte's podcast and Christian's and Paul and Joe. I'm not going to give a link because you don't have anything.
I am missing you.
No, you got to get something started before this comes out.
You need to post up something, a performance with your band.
Yeah, my band. I mean, I do have my first band, the Varv. We were an arty punk band. I actually played saxophone and sang. I couldn't play. I mean, I just played it. I liked Madness. Another band I liked was Madness and Mixed Respects, and they had saxophone. So I said, okay, I don't have to sing and play sax at the same time. So I picked the saxophone. But actually, I was not bad, So it was kind of only I made up my own things, You could get away with that in punk.
Well, what's your next video, Paul? Any idea?
I think it's going to be gratuitous sax and senseless violins.
Ooh.
I think there's interesting things to say on that, with the songs that bookend it in particular. I think it's lots of songs about fame. So fame, like lots of artists write about fame. But nobody has got a relationship with fame like Ron and Russell Mael. So, hopefully it'll be a good one.
Yeah,
looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
Excellent.
And then on your podcast, you're going to do like a full review of their new album, right?
Yeah, 5 of us, including those of us here joining you today. Unfortunately, Penny wasn't able to make it to join us here today. We discussed the album song by song and pretty excruciating detail.
Cool.
But it's fun to
Yeah.
listen to, I guarantee you.
We think it is. We think it's great
I
fun.
think so. I am going to be cutting that in half because we did talk for two and a half hours. So I'm going to release it in 2 parts, and then Monty and I still have an episode in the hopper about angst in my pants, and so we'll be, when I get back from my trip to Europe in several weeks, then we'll pick that up again.
Cool. Okay. Any final words from anybody?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Oh,
thanks for what you're
yeah,
doing,
thank you.
Larry.
Yeah,
No, I
thanks
want some
for-
compliments, is what I'm meaning.
Yeah.
we already
What
told
a
you
great
you're
guy I
the
am.
underlying
Thank you for
story. You're the
complimenting.
hidden story of Sparks.
Yeah.
You're the best, Larry.
So, but no, this is great bringing us together. We really
Yeah,
love
thanks.
it.
Yeah, I thanks for being sort of the internet town crier for all things classic rock and
Yeah.
Sparks
Thank you.
and everything else you get to.
Paul, any compliments?
I think you're the best. Nice shirt.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
All right,
Right.
thank you
Bye,
guys.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.